And I do not want people to mistake what's happening right now or to wrongly assume my intentions here. So allow me to be very explicit, okay? I want war with all of you, okay? All of you. And there's a reason. I'm going to get to that reason in a little bit, but I want war with all of you. So write your articles, issue your statements, email the White House, reach out for comment, okay? Say whatever it is you want to say about me. I want war with all of you. Because I know this isn't right. And there is no way you are going to convince me and the rest of the world that all of this is normal.
I want war with all of you. Yes, warrior spirit. That is the warrior spirit that I expect from everyone I know and love. Be that if they are harmed or if I am. That's loyalty. That's friendship. That's brotherhood. That's love. That's family. That's truth. That's justice. That's the pursuit of the highest ideal. Yes. Abso-fucking-lutely, Candace Owens. And I don't know why she's getting so mercilessly attacked for this position, this mindset, this outlook. I don't understand why this isn't universal. And I mean that sincerely. Why is this not the universal approach from Jack Posobiec to every other person in Charlie's inner circle? Benny Johnson, all these people. Where are you? Why are you not demanding to just be absolutely certain that you have the right guy? And I think at the end of the day, that's the reason that so many people are looking at you side-eyed. Not because they think that you were involved, but because, as I've said in prior episodes, you're acting cowardly. Or worse, and I don't know which. But this is the reason that you're being questioned. This is the reason that your audience is fighting back against you. This is the reason that Jack Posobiec came out today and said, we're going to petition the court to make sure that this court proceeding is in fact public. Because as of a few hours ago, they're now talking about making it private. No cameras in the courtroom. No actual disclosures, no transparency, no justice. That's my opinion. If we don't get to watch this trial, forget it. It's a cover-up. It's as simple as that. But you've got all these masculine characters, Posobiec, former military, Matt Walsh, and all these guys. What is a woman? Talking about manhood and masculinity and to what it is to be a man and the patriarchy and defending of the patriarchy. And all of them pale in comparison during a time of crisis when it matters most to be courageous, to stand up for truth and justice. Who steps up? A woman. Candace Owens. Not y'all. Nope. None of you. Bitches. Pathetic. That's a fact. Sorry. You don't have to like Candace Owens, and you certainly don't have to agree with her. But that's the fucking attitude you ought to have right now.
I want war with all of you.
For what reason do you possibly trust the FBI or local PD or the government or the news media? You have no reason to trust any of them. Oh, because it's Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, so now all of a sudden they're trustworthy? Where are the Epstein docs? Nowhere to be found. Absolutely zero reason to trust these people. So if you're going to pretend as if Candace Owens is just making stuff up and barking up the wrong tree and we ought to just trust the FBI or trust the local cops to make this investigation and trust the judicial system to get it right, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. Absolutely not. And I don't believe that you believe that either. So that means that you're either being cowardly or something worse. Maybe you're a bot. Maybe the funding sources that keep some of you aloft is in fact tied to other groups that don't want disclosure. They don't want justice when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Maybe it's that simple. But guess what? Doesn't make it any better. Doesn't make you any less cowardly. In many ways, it actually makes you worse. It means that you're bought. It means that you're owned and operated. It means that you're controlled. It means that you're controlled opposition, to make it explicit. It means you are literally controlled opposition. And this doesn't just mean controlled opposition in the sense that, oh, we're going to uplift some politician who's ultimately going to betray the American people. You already did that. No, it means controlled opposition to the level and to the extent that you will allow for your friend to be murdered in front of the world and not say a word about it. It doesn't get any more controlled than that. You are as empty a vessel, as cowardly as they come. And if you think that Candace Owens is barking up the wrong tree, well then how about y'all bark up the right ones? How about you actually marshal your forces and your resources and you dig and you actually discover what she has wrong? Because as of now, it seems to me as if you guys are all simply avoiding this story entirely. And if you do lift a finger to discuss it or deign it necessary to utter a word about this case at all, it's just to blast Candace Owens for being the only one at the highest levels to actually talk about this stuff. It's weak. And I think your audience is catching on. So take this as friendly advice. If you want to maintain your audience or your reputation or any semblance of, I don't know, a soul, do the right thing. Actually start to work alongside her. Actually try and dig for the truth. We're not asking for a miracle here. We're not asking for the impossible. We're asking for you to be honorable friends to Charlie Kirk. Can you do that? I hope. It's been over 6 weeks now, and none of you have shown the backbone that she has. It's time. And if you don't, well then, don't expect to maintain your audience. I think it's that simple. So I guess I'll say, in summary, war.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
A little Andrew Breitbart drop for you. War. I want war with all of you too. Not that I want, violence. I don't. I'm actually very peaceful, but I would love to go to battle with anyone who wants to prevent genuine inquiry into the nature and circumstances that caused the untimely death of Charlie Kirk. You are not on the side of truth, transparency, or honesty. And for that, I will back up Candace Owens. I want war with all of you. Megyn Kelly was asked about Candace Owens at an event just yesterday. Let's hear what she has to say.
Convinced that Charlie was killed by Tyler Robinson, a crazed leftist who murdered him because he didn't like Charlie's messaging on the trans issue. That is my firm belief after having talked to the people at Turning Point, the FBI, the security team that was on the ground, and many others. And I've come to that with a good faith basis, and I have nothing that would shake me from it.
So I had 3 major takeaways from that clip. First off, and I think most interestingly, there was very tepid applause when she said that she believes that 100% Tyler Robinson was responsible for this. That was like, I don't know, it sounded like 5 or 6 people clapping in the audience. That doesn't sound like an audience filled with people that are equally outraged at Candace Owens and completely 100% convinced, as Megyn Kelly is, that Tyler Robinson acted alone. Additionally, I found it very interesting that she has come to the conclusion 100%, leaving exactly 0% doubt somehow, by talking to TPUSA, talking to the guys at the FBI, and talking to his security team. Okay, well, I want to remind you that Megyn Kelly is an attorney. So for her to take on face value or take on relational value, just trust. She says, I come to that conclusion in good faith. I think what she's implying there is that she's taking it on faith, that she is taking it at face value, at the word, the reputations of these people that are conveying this message to her. Now, if she has these relationships with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and that's adequate for her to come to that conclusion, obviously the TPUSA people have no fucking clue who fired that shot, nor does the security team. They would have no idea. It would either be the FBI or local sheriff's department that would actually really be able to prove this thing out. So I have no idea why she would ask them or take their opinion with any sort of gravity. But certainly if the FBI is telling her that and they say that they have additional information that has not been made public, okay, maybe. I don't understand, given that she was at this incredibly controversial TPUSA event in Tampa, mid-July, Dave Smith debating Josh Hammer, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly's there. The big story at the time, for those that don't remember, was the non-release of the Epstein files. The non-release of the Epstein files was a failed promise by Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, as well as Donald Trump. So why? Why does she have such faith, given that she's an attorney, given that she recognizes that they have already broken a promise to the public, and yet she has no additional questions, no inquiries whatsoever? I find that fascinating. Now, I do want to defend her in the sense that I appreciate that she said, I am unwilling to condemn Candace Owens. If you like her, you like her. If you don't, you don't. That's up to you.
I don't begrudge anybody asking questions, and I understand the controversy around where she's gone with it. But I think it's really kind of a matter of your preference for your broadcaster. And, Candace is many, many people's cup of tea, and she's not other people's, and I'm the same. And I haven't responded well to people demanding that I try to police her speech, because that's a leftist thing. It's not a right thing. So if she's not for you, that's fine. But if she is, that's fine too. And what she says about this particular matter, look, I just give her a lot of grace, because I know she's suffering. I know she really loved him. And I think this has been very hard on people who actually knew Charlie and really loved him.
That's a fair approach. But I would like, because I think highly of Megyn Kelly's intelligence, I really do. I would like for her to show some more openness to the possibility that perhaps Tyler Robinson didn't do it, or at least that maybe he didn't act alone. I mean, this is also one of your friends, obviously. So I'm going to add you to the category of all the people that were friends with Charlie that seem to have 0% interest, in your own words, in looking any deeper, in pressuring the law enforcement officials to actually provide actual proof that Tyler Robinson did this and acted alone. I'm going to cover some of the latest revelations when it comes to the Charlie Kirk case in just a second, but I do want to give my thoughts on the Tucker Carlson versus Nick Fuentes interview that dropped last night. People have had a lot of things to say about it, so I'm going to try and keep this short. But I thought that the one point that I hadn't seen anybody else make, and a lot of people seem to agree with me after I said it, was that Tucker really took on a paternal role about halfway through this interview. And I found it fascinating. It was actually very reminiscent of Dave Smith's interview with Nick, where about an hour in, both of them shift. And I think it's fascinating because, Nick is such a eloquent speaker, but also very bombastic and just radiates confidence on his own show. But then when he's on these other shows with people, there are these moments where you really sense his age. And I don't mean this as an insult. He's a young guy. He's like 26 or whatever. And he just comes across as someone who's developing, someone who's learning, someone who's open to guidance, someone who maybe be looking for a mentor. And I actually talked to Dave about this. I'll keep our conversation private, but I will say I was happy to see that. Nick Fuentes was canceled at 18. I mean, and not just canceled, but like viciously, brutally canceled. No fly list, deplatformed everywhere, debanked. I mean, just treated absolutely terribly. And the primary thing that he did that got that treatment was not the jokes and not the oven stuff and all that nonsense, which I think was genuinely joking. I don't know for sure, but that's how I took it. Because he questioned the nature of the GOP and, moreover, America with Israel. And that was adequate because this was a time when very few people were willing to do that. And he did that at 18 years old. And for the next 6 years, 7 years, he was in the wilderness entirely alone. Or not entirely. I mean, he has a big support group, large fan base, but he was basically alone. And he was talked about like Voldemort. Like, you couldn't bring him up without first condemning him. Like, if he had a good point that he made, you have to go like, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with everything he says, but XYZ. People do that. Like, that's all they ever do with him, which is how you know you're dealing with someone who's been really, really canceled and really, really blacklisted. But it's just so obvious to me personally that I can put myself back into being 18 years old and just imagine had I been an outspoken person and had kind of the ideas that I do today and gotten the same treatment that Nick did from kind of a normie. I mean, he was really a libertarian, which is crazy too to learn. And just a really kind of basic bitch GOP guy, honestly, by his own description. And then he is just mercilessly canceled in such a vicious fashion. And I can imagine just how both radicalizing and devastating that would be, especially for a young man. So, as someone who respects and appreciates both Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, I loved seeing that. I loved kind of putting an arm out, or a brief respite, if you will, a shelter from the storm. And I think that he needs some guidance. Not to say that he's not totally capable, he obviously is, but just that I think that particularly people that have been in this a lot longer than him, which both Dave and Tucker have, and they also have a lot of years, and they're both married, and they have kids, and it's like they have a lot of life lessons that they could impart upon him, some areas of weakness in his rhetoric, if not his life, that I think they could help him with. And I think that also it would probably have a de-radicalizing effect, and it would probably bring him in more into the land of the less shit posting, more like, what do I actually want to see in the world? Let's talk solutions. Let's not just lament things. Let's not just, have a bitch fest, which I do a lot of. So I'm not throwing shade. And I think that's good. I think that's healthy. I think that's actually one of the biggest values of free speech and platforming, which, of course, all of the usual suspects are losing their minds. Seth Dillon says, these are all quote tweets of the interview, more or less. Seth Dillon says, quote, Hitler was really fucking cool, end quote. Nick Fuentes. Rebecca Heinrich says, I watched the interview. It wasn't interesting or provocative. It's not smart, and it's disgusting to elevate this person and behave as if his views are worthy of consideration. They are not. Film Lad says, two cancerous tumors giggle at each other. David Draymond says, Dear Miss Erica Kirk, Tucker Carlson is continuing to disrespect the memory of your late husband, has now platformed notorious Nazi wannabe Nick Fuentes, and is destroying the legacy you and Charlie Kirk created. Please stop this madness. As if Erica has the capacity to tell Tucker that he can't have Nick on. All right. Insurrection Barbie, which is a literal bot account, in my opinion, for a foreign country, says, this is not the conservative movement Charlie Kirk died fighting for. I am not embracing this. I am not unifying with this. I am not accepting this. Movements don't die when their enemies attack them. They die when they sell their soul. This feels like one of those moments. Ariel Azarad says, I'm losing brain cells watching this slop. Will Chamberlain, who I have beefed with many times and I am not impressed by, says, it's been a little more than a month after he spoke at Charlie's funeral, and here he is talking with one of America's most prominent and noxious anti-Semites about how much he despises Christian Zionism. Tucker should be ashamed. This is a total betrayal. Okay. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, who I also do not like, says, wasn't aware that Tucker despises me. I do get that a lot from people not familiar with the Bible or history. Somehow I will survive the animosity. Well, just so you know, Mike, it's not just Tucker that despises you. It's also me and most of America. You're a bum and you don't represent America. And you have no business actually being in American politics. You ought to move to the country that you love because it's not America. Brandon Tatum says Tucker is literally calling Charlie a heretic whom he despised, who also had a mind virus. Charlie Kirk was a Christian Zionist, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to stop there because I think you get the point. And I just want to point out how eerily reminiscent that type of response to a interview, just an interview, is to 2016, is to the entire woke environment when we weren't allowed to talk to anybody or say anything. And basically, if you were a straight white guy, you were just persona non grata. Like, that's kind of the exact same thing that's happening here. How could you have a conversation with this noxious blah, 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 blah? It's like, dude, we're done with that. It's over. You lost. They lost and you lost. You don't get to defeat the woke and then become it. You don't get to talk about, oh, we're not going to listen to them about platforming debates. We platform whoever we want. And then Tucker Carlson goes, well, I want to platform this guy. And you go, no, whoa, not that guy. You're woke. This is why I'm so disgusted with James Lindsay, because he pushed this woke right label when it was so clearly and obviously applicable to him and his crew. Like, that's what these people are. They are the woke right. And let me just explain. Let me elaborate as to why, because I feel like I don't get an opportunity to do that, or I haven't taken the opportunity to do that, I should say. The reason that they are the woke right is the same reason that the left has a woke virus, a woke movement, is that it's grievance and it's identitarianism. So on the left, it's identitarianism when it comes to minorities, right? But it's like, are you trans? Are you gay? Are you black? Are you Hispanic? Are you an immigrant? Are you a woman? Then you're an oppressed minority under critical theory, and therefore you are to be defended. Now, there's a hierarchy within the defense, and ultimately, if you're like a straight black guy, well, then you're kind of high up because you're part of the patriarchy, and you're a man, so that's a problem, and blah, blah, blah. Right? So there's still hierarchy there. But generally speaking, as long as you're not straight and white and a man, they'll defend you a little bit. Well, on the right, it also has a minority class that is extraordinarily identitarian in nature. And it's more narrow, but it's equally, if not more, to be defended. And that is both Israel or Jewish people. Either way. Right? So it's the same thing. And they are an oppressed minority, and they must be defended, and particularly straight white men can't talk about it. It's like carbon copy or funhouse mirror of the same thing. And I don't know why I even have to make this argument. And maybe I don't need to. Maybe it's so obvious at this point that like everyone sees it and I'm over explaining. I hope that's the case. But for those that didn't understand why I described them as a woke right, I hope that this helps. Like, there's also one additional similarity that I think is important to talk about. And I haven't been able to elaborate on this either. But particularly when it came to the left wokeness was you can't talk about any of the problems within that community. They are to be protected and defended, and they are also off the table of topics. Like, you can't talk about it. Example, African-American black community in America. You can't talk about violence in the cities when it comes to gangs and the black on black violence. Like, if you bring it up, you're racist because these people have been oppressed. And if they are violent, it's because of poverty and because the judicial system is unfair, blah, 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 right? So like, that's the left's version of it. And just to clarify, the reason is because they were abused historically, terribly so. And I agree with that. Slavery was atrocious. So they get a hall pass. They get additional protections. You're not allowed to talk about the problems in that community, ever. And if you do, you're a bigot. And you're persona non grata immediately. And by the way, this applies on all categories. The same with trans. If there's any violence that comes from that community, when it comes to shooting up Christian schools or whatever, can't talk about that. Basically, if you're in a protected class, you can get away with murder. Literally. There's a bit of a similarity with that when it comes to Israel now, isn't there? Because of the Holocaust. And again, atrocious. It was terrible. But because of what happened to your great-grandfather or whatever, you get a hall pass. Again, you get away with literal murder when it comes to Gaza, for example. And I just think that the similarities are so, I mean, it's so obvious to me, and yet I've never heard anyone really lay it out just how I just did. So that's why I wanted to do it. And I wanted to get your thoughts. I think that that's exactly, it's the exact same framework. It's critical theory. It's oppression Olympics. It's protected status. It has oppressor versus oppressed. And ultimately, if you're in the oppressor class, people that look like me, then you can't talk about these things at all, even if they're legitimate problems, which they are, obviously. And a lot of black people are willing to talk about it. It's just like white liberals that tell you you can't. And also, we're allowed to talk about how fucked up what's going on in Gaza is, or Lebanon, or Yemen, or, I mean, they've bombed like 5 or 6 different countries. So, yeah, it's okay. You can talk about it. And there's a lot of Jewish people that want you to talk about it. But according to the woke right, you can't. You can't talk about it. In fact, you also can't talk to somebody who talks about it. That's how you know you're really in the land of the woke. When they start to not just cancel the person who has the wrong opinion, but they start to cancel anybody who has a conversation with the person that has the wrong opinion. They start to cancel people who are friends with the person who platformed the guy who has the wrong opinions. I can't tell you how many posts I saw today where they're like, why is Megyn Kelly or, you know, whoever not coming out and condemning Tucker Carlson for platforming Nick Fuentes? And it's like, oh, 6 degrees of anti-Semitism. It's so ridiculous. All right, I'm going to move on from this topic. I just want to say, I think that it is healthy and productive and that we ought to be having more conversations with people that have been blacklisted, debanked, everything else. Let's actually get to the truth of these matters. Let's actually work towards a more peaceful future as opposed to this censorious, canceled future that they were trying to push upon us. If there was one reason I was really, really happy that Donald Trump won, is because it was such a massive repudiation of the woke mind virus. And if Donald Trump winning still hasn't defeated it on the right wing, well, then I'm just not going to allow that. I'm not going to accept it. I will not stand for it. And again, I say, if you disagree with me, then I want war with all of you. Now, I'm not even going to say this guy's name because I don't want to put additional, I don't know, attack mobs on him. Candace is already talking about it, so if you want to look it up, you can. It's not really relevant. Let's just say he's allegedly a very close friend of Charlie Kirk, and I think he was either worked with or was associated with TPUSA. He was obviously at the event. What I find fascinating about this, well, let's just play it and we'll talk through it.
They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. just shot Charlie. He's dead. God help him.
That same guy is the one who's responsible for removing, I don't know if he removed the camera or if he just removed the SD cards from the camera that was mounted directly behind Charlie, which we are still yet to have seen that footage. Candace Owens got to see it through like FaceTime, but nobody else has had a copy of that yet. So we don't know what it shows. All we know is that it doesn't show an exit wound. Okay. So he is the same guy who tampered with evidence. It's just a fact. I'm not saying he did it for nefarious purposes, but it is a fact that you should not tamper with a crime scene. Like, you shouldn't. But he did. And now we see that, and you got to remember, what he's videoing there is about a minute later. I mean, it happens super fast that the security team basically knocks Charlie over. They pick him up within seconds almost. Maybe it was 20 seconds after realizing that his life is seriously in jeopardy. And they pick him up and they take him to that SUV and they drive him off to the hospital. This guy, he pulls out his camera and he starts to video himself. Now, I don't know about you. Maybe it's just because I'm a man. I don't do things like that. I know it's weird to say as I'm talking into a camera, but other than when I'm doing the show or on another show, I don't do this. Like, I don't take photos. I don't take videos of myself. I don't take selfies. I don't do any of that. So for me, it's just super weird. And then you add into it that, like, okay, this is your friend who literally within 2 minutes of that video being taken, he just got shot and killed. And you're taking a selfie video. I mean, all right. This is what I'm going to keep saying about everything that's weird with all these fucking things is people do really weird stuff in a time of crisis. So I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that this is indicative of him, like, trying to paint himself an alibi or any of that shit that a lot of people are saying. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I will say that is just strictly, simply not something I would do. I wouldn't do it. There is no way in the world that I'm going to turn my camera around and start to video myself talking about how my friend got shot within a minute of getting shot when, like, I don't even know that he's dead. And then on top of that, he says he's dead. Now, I knew that after seeing the video very early on because it was just so graphic and it was so obvious that that was a mortal wound. But I don't know how he knew that. Like, you got to remember, he hasn't had an opportunity to look at the video and see anything. He's literally just seeing them carry his body to the SUV, and he says he's dead. Very, very strange. You just add that, like, layers upon layers of weird. It's just weird. I'm not saying it's criminal. I'm not even saying it's necessarily suspicious. I'm just saying it's fucking weird. Can we admit that? On top of that, you got Mikey McCoy, who I covered in the episode yesterday, so I'm not going to go deep on it, but this is my assessment after, like, really digging in on this. I think that he puts his hands up to his head, like shock, or maybe even puts his fingers in his ears because of the bang from the gun. He just bails. Again, not something I would do. Like, if I'm going to bail, because he's so close, he could have seen what happened to Charlie and been like, I can't help him. It's over. I'm out of here. But he also knows that something terrible just happened, and he doesn't run. But like I said, people do weird shit. Maybe you just walk away during an active shooting. Normally people freeze or they sprint, but he walks. Okay, maybe. But this is where it gets really interesting because his father, who, to my understanding, was in that notorious group chat with Josh Hammer and Charlie, talking about how he has to leave the pro-Israel cause. That's his father. I think his name's Pastor Rob McCoy. And he's given interviews and he's talked about this and he's saying his son was covered in blood.
I'm looking at my son who's 24 years old. Justin's the CFO, chief financial officer, and Mikey's the chief of staff. And I'm watching, the minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray. I said, okay, son. He has wits about him. He was just directing. He had blood all over him.
How? And this is a sincere question. And this gets, look, oftentimes people will try and tell stories to either Pastor McCoy is lying and he's trying to make his son look more heroic than he is, or maybe his son was lying to his dad because he wanted to look more heroic than he was. But I don't see how it's even possible that he was covered in blood. I don't see it. He's gone in an instant. In less than a second, he's turned and he's walking away. And when you see them loading Charlie into that SUV, he is further than the SUV and he is still walking. So how and when exactly did he try and save Charlie's life, and did he get covered in blood? Pastor, I don't think it happened. One of you is lying. I don't know who, and I don't know why. But this is a problem. People need to start being fucking honest. And I think that's the biggest problem with all this, is that we're just awash in lies. I mean, there's so many inconsistencies in this story. First off, the 30-06. Don't buy it. I don't think there's a chance at all that that's what Charlie was hit with. I really don't. So you start with that. Then you have the footage that should show Tyler Robinson in the prone position taking that shot. Hasn't been released. No indications that it will be. That's another inconsistency. Then you have the court and the attorney saying, we're going to make it so that we don't have a live stream of this trial. Another reason to doubt the official narrative. Another reason to doubt the legitimacy of the judicial system. Then you got Mikey McCoy, who's allegedly been told, programmed even, to call Erica immediately if there's a crisis. So that's what he does. But then he's also covered in blood, according to his dad, which is impossible. So who's lying? And then you have people within TPUSA that are getting overly defensive, and they're not just telling the truth. Just be super honest. I think that's the easiest way we get through this, is if people just stop spinning. You got to be fucking straight as an arrow honest about this stuff. We're trying to figure out who killed Charlie Kirk. I believe strongly that almost everybody, if not everybody, within TPUSA love Charlie Kirk, and they want the truth too. So I'm not trying to condemn you guys at all. But you cannot go in the defensive mode.
I'm just going to be blunt about this. This is a extremely disgusting attack. And I can speak to that because I was there when it happened, and I was next to Mikey when it happened. And what I can say is, I can't say every single thing that happened, but I want to talk about this specific narrow thing. That the shooting occurs. I am next to Mikey. Both of us hear a loud crack. We both turn. We both see Charlie, who has been shot. Both of us, I think at about the same time, realize that that means there is a shooter who is on the scene. And, you just hear the crack, so you don't know, did it come from far away? Did it come from close? Is there a mass shooter unfolding right now? So I and him both had the reaction of, let's get out of here before we're both shot. And then I think he literally said to me, I might be imagining this, but I think what he literally said was, he was looking around, and then he says, I need to call Erica. And then he takes his phone and he begins calling Erica. And I don't want to disclose how that call unfolded, but he did that. He calls Rob McCoy and he says, Dad, someone shot Charlie. You need to call all of your pastor friends. Charlie was hit. We need everyone to pray right now. And that's what he told him.
You can't start saying that, oh, these people are disgusting and it's despicable, and how could they even ask these questions?
And I guess it's very disgusting for me as someone who witnessed this, who saw Mikey hugely distressed and then step up in the moment, because after that call was over, I saw Mikey get total mastery of himself, that he realized he had to step up in this situation.
Fuck you, man. Seriously. I want to make sure that I don't want to live in a country where there's political assassinations and there's cover-ups. Okay? So even setting aside the fact that I met Charlie and I considered him basically a colleague in this industry, I'm much small timer, but you know what I'm saying? So I take this personally on that level, but then additionally, I take it personally in that I don't want to live in a fucking country where political assassinations are just covered up. Certainly that happened before I was born, but apparently we're back in it. So I don't want that. And then additionally, I also just want justice for him and his wife and his kids. And you're going to demonize the people that are in my camp that are just saying, we just want to make sure that you got the right guy. That's it. I'm not trying to point fingers or accuse anybody who's innocent. I really do not want to do that. I think of all the people that have been covering this, I've been as clear about that as anybody. I don't want anybody who's innocent to feel the weight of public pressure. But the way you avoid that is not by shaming people that are asking questions. The way you avoid that is full fucking transparency. And you guys have not delivered it. And it started with that group chat. Y'all sat on it for 3 weeks while Candace Owens was talking about it publicly and everyone was calling her a liar. And you guys just stayed silent, even though many of you were in that group chat and you knew factually, I'm talking to Andrew Colbert specifically, you knew that Charlie had said 48 hours before he was murdered that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause. That's what he said, verbatim. And you didn't come out and put it out publicly. You sent it to law enforcement. Kudos to you for that. But you just left her hanging in the wind. Not cool. And I think the broader support that Candace Owens and this entire kind of, I don't know, ragtag group of armchair investigators, the reason that we're all getting the support that we are is because a lot of people feel the same way. I mean, we have just been lied to about everything for our entire lives. And many of us just realized it. I've kind of been red-pilled for a long time, but you know, a lot of people are just realizing it over the past couple of years, and they're like, especially with the lockdown era and COVID. So we're just sick to death. We're just done. Like, we don't trust the three-letter agencies. We don't trust the government. We don't trust the media. We don't trust the political operatives or the pundits either. They're all bums. And yes, I say this as a political commentator, but I'm the one person I know is telling the truth because I'm me. And people are not just, they're just not going to accept the labels anymore. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're disgusting. How could you possibly? Why would you say that? Oh, you're defiling his legacy and this and that and this. No, we're not. We're done. We're not doing it. War. That's what we're doing. We're declaring war on anybody who obfuscates. Be honest. Be transparent. Lay it all out. If you're sincere, this shouldn't even be hard. You want justice just as much as I do, I would assume. If that's the case, full transparency. That's what we're asking for. Not asking, demanding. We've been lied to too much. We cannot accept, oh, just wait. Just trust the feds. No, not going to do it. I want to make sure that we get the right guy, and I'm not going to rest until we do. And there's one other really important point to make about this. The guy who takes the selfie of himself, what's the first thing he says after grabbing his chest and, you know, pensive pause? All reasonable reactions, in my opinion, other than videoing yourself, which is super fucking strange. But otherwise, reasonable reactions. And then he goes, they just fucking shot Charlie.
They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie.
He says they, not a person, they. Now, my guess is he'll say, oh, I was thinking it was the left. So they is the left. Okay, maybe. But Candace Owens said that Charlie was telling her, or maybe, I don't know if it was her or if she just was like sent messages where he was saying it, but that they are going to kill me. And it's like, that nebulous they. The Kanye West, who is they though? Or Tim Pool, I think, hit him with the, who's they? And I think that's what we're all asking. I don't think that you pull this off as a one-man show. Some dude in his early 20s, no criminal history, pulls off this miraculous assassination, gets away, and then turns himself in. That doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't feel right. The evidence doesn't point to it either. And it's like, yeah, they just shot Charlie. Who is they, though? That's what we need to know, and we're not going to rest until we find out. So keep shouting us down. Keep labeling us conspiracy theorists or whatever. I'm totally immune to it. There's nothing you could say that's going to stop me. I want to make sure that we have the right guy or people. And until we get that, war. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please do hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below if I got anything wrong. I didn't, obviously. And subscribe on audio podcatchers if you're watching. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe on YouTube or Rumble. Liberty Lockdown is the name of the show, and I am Clint Russell. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. And as always, if you want to get cozy, go to mypillow.com and use promo code LOCKDOWN to get you some Giza sheets and all the cozy stuff that Mike Lindell's got. The guy's I don't even know. He's just a merchant of cozy. mypillow.com, promo code LOCKDOWN. We're out of here. Peace.
Subscribe to Liberty Lockdown. Great podcast. Clint is tight.